There we are. Okay. So we're going to start with the scanning. It'll take a couple minutes and to check in with yourself and your contact in today. And for those of you who are new to the Feldenkrais awareness to movement class, and this is something that and typically, and we start in the Feldenkrais lesson at the beginning of the lesson. The purpose of this is the self-observation, and you can check in with your own contact and the way that your body makes the contact with the floor. Okay, we just start in and go ahead and lie down when you're ready. So no rushing when you're ready and lie down on the floor. So we are starting with the scanning, and so make yourself as comfortable. If anything is not comfortable, if you feel like you need a little more support underneath your head, and feel free to make an adjustment. If you are feeling so uncomfortable, then all you are able to pay attention to is your discomfort, okay? And so as best as you can, and trying to make it possible and make it as comfortable as you can, okay? Whatever that means and whatever that takes. And if you are able to lie down with your legs straight down, that's great. But if that's too uncomfortable for your lower back, and it is okay to bend your legs, okay? And so do what you need to do. But anyways, we are starting with the scanning. Lie down on your back, and don't worry about me, really, because this is about, I'm guiding you through the movements and through the awareness and through the sensation of yourself. And so it doesn't really matter what I am doing in front of the camera, so don't worry about me so much, okay? Hi, Sonia. All right, okay. So go ahead and lie down and bring your attention, awareness to yourself and to your own contact. Okay, and so first, in checking with your breathing, and notice your breathing, and notice the way that you breathe, and notice how your body moves with the breathing. And what do you begin to notice, and what part of yourself and you begin to notice and become aware with each breath, in and out? What parts are you moving? What parts of your body is moving? And can you feel perhaps your chest expanding a little bit? And maybe feel the rib cage moving a little bit with your inhale and an exhale. Each exhale, and maybe you're noticing the belly and moving into what directions. Is it moving upward and towards the ceiling? Is it expanding and moving outward? There's nothing that you need to change, and I'm just directly verbally guiding your attention, so they maybe become aware of your bodies a little bit more. Okay, and so while you're still paying attention to your breathing, and it starts to spread your awareness, attention to your pelvis. So the back of the pelvis, and then feel the pelvis and how the pelvis is making a contact with the ground. And feel the right side of the pelvis and feel the left side of the pelvis. And can you just sense the difference between two sides of the pelvis, your pelvis? Which side is heavier and which side feels lighter? Okay, and there's nothing that you need to judge about yourself when you feel one side is heavier, one side is lighter, and it's to be expected. Okay, so if you feel that one side is has more contact, and that's just notice that and observe, and don't try to change anything. Okay, try not to correct anything, and feel the space behind your back, lower back, and notice the space and how much of the space can you sense behind your back. And if you want to, you don't have to, but if you want to, and just to check, you can slide your hand underneath your back, and just to see the space, and feel the space with your hand. and how much space can you actually feel? And is it really as much space as you thought in your awareness, or is it a little bit smaller? Is it pretty close? And sometimes your perception about yourself and is not exactly match the reality. So it's good to check in sometimes and to see how close it is. Maybe it's not so close. Maybe you're surprised that it's such a difference. Um, and let's continue to notice your spine and from the lower back to your mid back, and feel how the shape and the contact changes and what part of the spine makes a contact with the ground. What's the first part of the spine that touches the ground? And notice the space, notice the contact and how the contact and weight distribution changes from the first vertebra that makes a contact with the ground and moving upward towards the mid and upper back. And follow the spine into the top of your neck and noticing the changes in the amount of the contact and the amount of the weight. And based on that and the information that you gather, and can you kind of get a sense of the shape of your spine as if you're looking from the side? There is the curvature, roundness, and flatness, and then the arch, and maybe a little bit of twist, and all kinds of the movements and curves and twist and arch and taking place, and just to notice, and can you tell what the shape of your spine looks like? It's definitely not symmetrical. It's definitely not straight for anybody, okay? And 10 people in a class, or maybe 8 people in a class, and then the shape is gonna be completely different from one person to another person. That's normal, right? But what can you learn by paying attention to your own contact, and what can you learn about your spine, the shape of your spine? And now feel the head and notice the weight of your head, right? And where's the contact on the head? And notice the connection between the head and your spine. How does the head connect to the spine? The neck and the mid back, lower back, and to your pelvis. What's the connection between the head and the pelvis? And can you sense, and it's a kind of vague question, but can you sense the connection between the head and the pelvis? And so this is what we're going to be exploring in today's class, and so in the next 40 minutes and 45 minutes. So go ahead and lie down. Let's actually go ahead and sit. Everybody go ahead and sit on the floor. Sit on the mat or the floor. You're going to sit, if you're able to, sit with the soles of your feet together. And you can lean back on your hands. If it is too hard on your wrist, you can do the fist, but just lean back onto your hands, and with the soles of your feet touching each other, and try not to hold yourself up, and just comfortably sit like that, and begin to make a small circle with your head. Okay, small circle. And you can go clockwise or counterclockwise and slowly. Okay, and it's not a big movement, and just to make a small movement. You can watch me for a second and see what I'm doing, but really, it's about your own body and how your body moves. So really pay attention to your own movements. So slowly move a few times, doing a little bit of circling movement with your head. Okay, then as you're making that circling movement, and pay attention, where do you feel the movement? And beside your head, it's obviously your head is moving, right? But how far through yourself, and can you feel the movement? Feel the movement in your neck, And feel the movement further down, maybe into your chest. Okay, now change the direction of the circle. And don't do it too fast. I don't want you to get dizzy. So not too fast. Little circle movements with your head. And noticing your neck and noticing any other parts that you can feel the movement. Okay. Maybe at first it is not so clear, but maybe, as we move along and go through the lesson, and it starts to become a little more aware of other place and relationship. Okay, and that's fine. And go ahead and stop. And you're going to lie on your stomach now. And you're going to be, once you lie on your stomach, you're going to be on your elbows and forearms. If that's too much for your back, well, you don't have to do it. But if you're able to, you can get on your hands. You can go onto your stomach and then prop yourself up on your elbow and the forearms, like so. Okay. And in this position, yeah. Okay. Again, I'm going to try to remind everybody. So if you get uncomfortable, you are allowed to stop anytime. Okay. Don't continue. Right. And from that position, and you're going to do the same or the similar movements with your head and making a little bit of a circle with your head, either clockwise or counterclockwise. You can go either way. Small movement, but don't do such a big movements that causes discomfort in your neck or any other places. Tiny movement is fine. So how does the head move? And how does the movement move through you? Okay, and change the circle and the direction of the circle. You go the other way. You pay attention. How does your head move? And sensing the movement of your neck. Is there anything happening in your chest? Any movements taking place in your chest or not? Okay, and you can rest on your stomach. You can lower yourself down. You can put your head down. Rest your neck. Rest your head. And then come on back. Again, the same positions on your elbows and forearms on your stomach. And then now look forward and keep your eyes on the horizon. And then from there, and can you move your chest and sink your chest down a little bit towards the floor? And then move your chest away from the floor. So can you feel, it's maybe a small movement, but and maybe this movement is so foreign to you, you don't even, it's not so clear. That's okay, but pay attention. And can you feel that movement? Chest sinking into the ground a little bit, and then and move and lift it away from the floor gradually up and down. Then as you do that movement, and I'd like you to pay attention to your shoulder blades. Where are the shoulder blades? And are they moving? When do they move away from each other? And when do they move towards each other? So notice how when your chest sinks into the ground, and can you feel the shoulder blades moving towards each other? And then when your chest moves away from the floor, and feel how your shoulder blades actually move apart, away from each other. Okay? And slowly lower yourself down and rest your head on your hands. And roll onto your back, please. And rest on your back. And constantly, you're going to hear me say, slow down, pay attention, move slow and do small movements. Don't move too big, a lot, okay? And the reason why is because when we focus on something and then we tend to forget and to pay attention to our own comfort. And it's so easy to just get caught up with what we're doing, movements, and then we tend to do a little too much. And we won't know until we do too much. We've done already too much. So I'm just trying to remind you a lot. And because it takes a lot of reminders for us to become aware of how we feel. Okay. All right, so now bring your right arm at the shoulder height on the floor. So the right arm, right about the shoulder height with the palm facing up towards the ceiling. You can have your left arm at your side on the floor, just the right arm shoulder height on the floor with the palm up facing the ceiling. And if you want to bend your legs, bend your knees, you can. If that is more comfortable for you, and feel free to bend up your legs. But if you're okay with the legs straight, just leave the legs straight. And now from there, with your right arm straight at the shoulder height on the floor, and begin to now move, pay attention to your right shoulder blade. Okay, so feel the contact of the right shoulder blade, and can you just make the small movements with the shoulder blade so that moving the shoulder blade, right shoulder blade away from the spine, away from the center, so that the right arm moves away from you and lengthens a little bit. Maybe it's a small movement, sit down. So slow it down. It's not a stretch. It's so easy when you can't feel the movements, and it's so easy to try to force the movement and hoping that'll make it more clear. But it's actually, you're going to be able to sense the movement more clearly by reducing the effort and reducing the range of motion. So do less. Small movements, tiny movement. Can you just feel tiny movement of the shoulder blade moving away from the spine, and then let it come back. Okay, so the right elbow stays straight. You're not bending elbows, you're not straightening, you just keep it straight. Lengthen your arm by sliding your shoulder blade away from the spine. Okay. And you leave it. And can you now move the right shoulder blade towards the spine? So you're shortening your arm, but not by bending the elbow. Keep your elbow straight, but gliding your right shoulder blade towards the spine. And then let it come back to the starting point. So how does that feel for you? Is it easier than the other opposite directions? Or is this harder? It's different for each person. One person might find it's much easier going in these directions, and another person might find this is absolutely difficult, more difficult. Okay, now you're going to alternate, moving away from the spine and then moving towards the spine, gliding the shoulder blade, right shoulder blade away and towards. And what you're paying attention is you are paying attention to smoothness and the lightness of the movement. Okay, it's not the range of motion. It doesn't matter how far you move in each direction, but how smoothly and how comfortably can you move it. Each movement you do, you make, and can you try to find a way that you can move the shoulder blade more comfortably with less effort. That's always the key. Less effort means you have to reduce unnecessary effort. But you can do that by slowing down. You're going to find the more efficient way to use yourself. Okay, and take a rest and slowly bring your right arm back down to your side on the floor and rest your arm. If you are feeling any sense of stretching, discomfort, strain, you're doing too much. Okay, you shouldn't. You can always find a way to move that in a way that actually feels good and nice and not uncomfortable and painful. So look for that quality. You can do that. Bring your right arm at the shoulder height on the floor, the palm up toward the ceiling. Again, and so this time, move your right shoulder blade upward towards the direction of your head. Sorry, the right arm on the floor, Yeah, on the floor at the shoulder height. Okay? And moving your shoulder blade, gliding your shoulder blade upward towards the direction of your head, and then downward towards the direction of your feet, up and down. So the whole time your right arm really doesn't move. It's only the shoulder blade that you are moving against the floor. It's a tiny movement. Okay, so it goes up, and then it goes down. Goes up, and goes down. Okay. And which direction is easier for you? Going upward or going downward? An easier direction often means that it's a habitual direction. It's the direction that you tend to use more, not a bad or not a good. It's just what it is. So that's the reason why I'm asking, does it feel easier? Does it feel more familiar? Does it feel more natural to you? Going upward or going downward? Okay, and the harder directions and how can you make that harder directions and movement a little less hard, maybe a little more difficult, a little easier and a little more comfortable? How do you do that? It's quite simple. Do less, move more slowly, reduce an effort, and your nervous system will find easier pathway, believe it or not. Okay, and you leave that. Stay there. Rest, just to rest. Right? Same arm, same directions, shoulder blade moving upward and downward. Gliding up, gliding down, same thing. A few more times. Up and down, up and down. Make it easier, make it simpler, make it smoother, make it more comfortable. Do it in a way that you want to continue to do more and more, not in a way that makes you feel more painful each time you do it. Okay. All right. Bring your right arm back down to your side and rest your arm. Feel free to bend your legs or straighten your legs or change position if you need to. If you want to roll onto your side for a little bit, you can. And it is kind of funny that we have to be reminded sometimes to change positions and activities and to stop or pace yourself and and to stay more comfortable. But we do actually, we forget to pay attention so quickly. Right? And this is about the awareness. And while you are learning to pay attention to yourself, then it's easy to focus too much on my instructions, right? So my job is to bring more awareness to yourself. And that's my job. Okay, and back one more time. Right arm up to the side at the shoulder height on the floor, with the palm up facing the ceiling. And this time, okay, you feel the contact of your right shoulder, and then can you just lighten that contact and the pressure away from the floor. You're not lifting really, but moving into that towards the direction of the ceiling, or taking the pressure or the weight off a little bit and let it come down so you feel the shoulder blades again returning to the floor. Feel the contact again, okay? And stop and pause. Give it 1 second and then do the same thing. Take the pressure off and lightening the pressure of the right shoulder blade away from the floor, just enough that you feel that pressure changes, and then let it return to the ceiling, to the floor. Move in a way that is becoming more comfortable and easier and lighter. How do you make it lighter? How do you make it lighter? It's not about more strength. It is about reducing and removing an unnecessary work and somewhere else. And that's stopping you from doing what you want to be doing. So pay attention. Okay. And now stay there and pause. And this time, you're going to move the shoulder blade into the opposite directions, which is going into the floor. So increase the contact and the pressure of your right shoulder blade against the floor. So you press in a little bit, just lightly, enough that you can feel the change in the contact and pressure. And then let it go. And you can feel as if the ground and the floor is lifting your shoulder blade when you release it. Okay? And then press it again into the floor. Press the shoulder blade into the floor and feel the pressure increases. And as you let it go, and feel as if the floor is moving your shoulder blade upward. Okay? So do that several times, 5 times. And then alternate, pressing, and then let go, and lifting. Well, not really lifting, lightening away from the floor. Alternate, moving up and down towards the ceiling and towards the floor. So as you do that movement, and where else do you sense the movement besides your shoulder blades? Does the movement go through in other places, such as your chest, your ribs, your spine? Notice how this movement shifts your contact. And notice a relationship. It's not just the shoulder blade, but how that shoulder blade actually changes and affects the entire self relationship. Okay. Now slowly bring your right arm back down to the floor by your side, and then bring your left arm up to the side at the shoulder height on the floor with the palm facing up towards the ceiling. So now let's switch hands. Okay, so the left arm at the shoulder height with the palm facing the ceiling. And you can have your right arm at your side on the floor. And with your left arm, just like how you did with your right side, but don't assume that it's going to be the same thing, two arms. Left arm, how it moves and how it actually moves with the rest of the cell is completely different from the opposite side. So don't assume that it's going to feel the same. You might be surprised that it feels quite different. And now move your left shoulder blade away from you, away from the spine. And then let it come back and move towards the spine. Out. In a way that your left arm lengthens and shortens, but without effort. There's no need to really use a lot of effort to do that. It's not about the strength. It's not about the flexibility. You might think that something's tight. You might think that something's weak, that you need to strengthen, you need to stretch more. Oftentimes, that's really not the case. So do less. You might be surprised. Somehow, by doing less, you improve, you get better. You can move more easily. So how do you move that? How do you move your shoulder blade in a way that is comfortable and smooth? And how does that move through you? Gliding the shoulder blade away from the spine and towards the spine. And what else is maybe participating in this movement? Besides your shoulder blade, besides your arm. Anything in your spine, anything in your rib cage, or maybe some other places too. Okay, go ahead and stop that movement. And then the next movement, like you did on the other side, you're going to glide, slide your left shoulder blade up and downward. Up meaning towards the direction of the head, and down meaning towards the direction of your feet. On the floor, up and down, up and down. So how's this side move? And compared to your right arm, you don't have to switch. Stay on your left side, but how does it move? How is it different? Moving your left shoulder blade and compared to the moving the right shoulder blade. And it's probably very different. And which direction is easier on this side? Is it the same direction as it was on the other side? Or is it opposite directions? Easier to glide it up, or is it easier to glide it downward on this side? And as you're doing this movement, again, what else is participating in this movement? How does the movement of the shoulder blade connect through you? Your rib cage, your spine, and perhaps in some other places. You can sense any movements, any other parts of yourself and moving as you're just moving your shoulder blade up and down. Any connection. Okay. And you can stop. Why don't you bring your left arm down just a little bit and rest your arm. Okay, and back to the same position. Bring your left arm at the shoulder height on the floor, palm facing up towards the ceiling. Okay. So the last movement is lightening the pressure of the left shoulder blade away from the floor, and then let it come back down, and then press in a little bit into the floor. And then let it go. And then alternate slowly, lightening the pressure, letting go, and pressing it down into the floor. So moving towards the ceiling, moving towards the floor, alternating. But move it very slowly, please. And each time you let go, it's just to feel how your arm and shoulder blade returns as you let go. As it returns to the starting point. Notice the sense. And as you're alternating this movement and starting to pay attention to all the other parts of your body, shoulder blade into your chest, your spine, and maybe even your pelvis. Okay. All right, bring your arm back down to the floor at your side. Okay. You can bend up your legs if you want to. And stay there. And as you're resting now, lying on your back, and notice the contact of your spine, and notice the contact of your shoulders, and how the contact has might have changed now. And from the very beginning, you scan your contact. Remember how much of the contact your spine had in the very beginning, and then now how much the spine has touched the floor now. Is there any difference? The way that shoulder blades make contact with the floor, any difference? And can you sense a little better or more clear connection between your head and your other parts of yourself? Head, your spine, and your pelvis. So roll onto your stomach, please. And have your face turn to the right. Face turn to the right on the floor, and then your right arm at the shoulder height on the floor with the palm downward. If that's not too hard for your neck, okay. If it does get uncomfortable, please stop and change the positions. But from there, and begin to do kind of similar movements and begin to slide your right shoulder blade away from the spine and then towards the spine. So the arm gets longer as you move the shoulder blade away from the spine. And then as you move it towards the spine, your arm becomes shorter, or you're not bending the elbows. Elbow stays straight. As if somebody is gently and grabbing and pulling your arm away from you, just gently, yanking on your arm. It's gently pulling and lengthening your arm away from you. Okay. Okay. And I know it's a little bit a hard position to be in, so let's have your head turn to the other side and switch arms, please. Bring your right arm at your side, and then bring your left arm at the shoulder height and face turn to the left. So same movement with your left arm and move your shoulder blade, left shoulder blade away from the spine and towards the spine with your face turned to the left. So how's it move? So this is a very similar movement you did while you're lying down on your back, but except the difference is now the floor is not against your shoulder blade. So how does the shoulder blade move without the floor against? It feels a little different. And how does it move through you? Besides your arm, besides your shoulder blade. Okay, and switch sides again, please, and turn your face to the right. Bring your right arm up to shoulder height on the floor, right? And from there, and moving your shoulder blade upward towards the direction of the head, and then downward away from the head. Yeah, but nice and easy. Easy does it. Okay, not a lot of work with your arm. Moving your shoulder blade up and down towards the head, down towards your feet. And how does it move? You notice that it doesn't really move straight up and down. It kind of rounds a little bit. It goes in an arc a little bit. And notice the trajectory of the movement of the shoulder blade. How does it move? And find the easier pathway, the smoother pathway going up and down, up and down. Smooth, smooth, smooth. Okay. And switch sides. Turn your face to the left. Bring your left arm out to the side on the floor, shoulder height, and moving the shoulder blade, left shoulder blade away, up towards the head, and down toward your feet. And that's how it moves on this side. Up and down, up and down. Okay. Roll onto your back, please. I'm gonna have you rest for a little bit, and you can scan your contact and notice any changes in the contact. And if you're feeling any discomfort around your neck from what you just did, then you just have to be a little more mindful of lying on your stomach with your head turning one way or the other way. And it's okay. We just have to be, a little more careful and mindful. So, meaning we'll probably have to stop a little bit sooner if we need to. Roll into your stomach again, and you're gonna come up on your elbows and your palms on the floor. Okay, so your elbows are underneath your shoulders. Okay, and then look forward and keep your eyes on the horizon. And from there, and you're going to do what you did before and sinking your chest towards the floor and lifting your chest away from the floor. And let's see if that movement has become a little more clear. You can sense the movement of the shoulder blades a little bit more now, or not, maybe not. Okay, now stay there, and from there, and starting to do that small movements with your head and doing the circle with your head, either directions, clockwise or counterclockwise. This is what we started with. Make the circle with your head. And is it possible to connect that movement into the chest? So the circling of the head is actually, and maybe it invites your chest to move a little bit in a circle too. So it's not just the moving the head in place, but somehow can you just imagine that there is a connection between the head and your chest? And change the direction of the circle. And if you pay attention to the shoulder blades, do the shoulder blades move? Or can you maybe allow the shoulder blades to participate with the movement of the head? Okay. I'm going to take a pause. Lower yourself down, bring your head down, and rest your head there. And slowly come on back onto the elbows and forearms again. And if you are okay to continue and start to do the same circle movements with your head, and can you connect further down? Actually, let me ask you this way, and pay attention to your pelvis, the front of the pelvis, okay? And as you make a circle with your head, as the weight shift on your pelvis as you make a circle with your head, from one side to the other side, what does it move? Is the pelvis staying pretty quiet the whole time? Well, can you now think of this way? And can you move the pelvis in a way that you can actually move the head in a circle? Right? It may not make sense, but just play with that idea. If you pay attention to the pelvis, and can you shift your pelvis in a way that allows the head to move in a circle? Well, maybe it doesn't have to be perfectly circle, but it starts to actually invite the head to move. Right now, it's shifting attention to your pelvis, and can you connect that pelvis to the head somehow? If it doesn't make sense, don't stress about it, okay? So just an idea. May make sense for you, may not make sense, that's okay. And that's good. And let's have you come up to sit. Sit on the floor with the soles of your feet together. Okay. If this is not this is too much, then you can do the best you can, but try to grab a hold of your ankle, okay? Right hand on your right ankle, left hand on your left ankle, okay? So, and from there, and can you now begin to make the circle with your head? Small circle, but now can you just imagine that the circle of the head, and can you connect that head movement and to your chest, maybe? And how do you do that? Okay, and then now you stop making a circle with your head. Shift your attention to your pelvis, please. Okay? Your sit bones, your pelvis. And now, can you move your pelvis on the floor and shift your pelvis on the floor in a way to move your head in a circle. And how do you do that? Move your pelvis on the floor in a way to move your head in a circle, maybe a very small circle. But how does it work? Even if it doesn't really make sense, and can you just maybe pretend it does make sense somehow, there is connection between the pelvis and your spine, your ribs, and then the head. So that when you move your pelvis, and somehow that it connects all the way up to the head, and so the head begins to make a circle. And change the direction of the circle if you haven't already. And by doing that, and can you really let go of your neck muscle so much that you are not working so hard on your neck, allowing the head to kind of move somewhat more passively just because of the movement with your pelvis. Okay. All right. And now you stop. Okay. And you take your hands on your pelvis. On your ribs, on either side of the ribs. And I'm going to change the position of my legs a little bit. And using your hands and move your ribs in a circle. You can kind of like stir in the pot movement. Move the ribs in a circle, clockwise or counterclockwise. And can you just allow that movement of your ribs and to move your head somehow. Circle, okay? Maybe it's a small movement, but just take with your hands and just guide your ribs to move in a circle and change the direction of the circle maybe once. Okay, and lastly, lean back with the sole of your feet together. Okay, just stay there. Make a little circle with your head. Like you did in the beginning, make a little circle with your head. And noticing that connection, okay? Connection between the head and your ribs and head and your pelvis. You can feel the pelvis is maybe shifting a little bit on the floor as you're making a circle, and change the direction of the circle. Okay? Now, can you move your head by moving your pelvis? Can you move the pelvis to move the head? How do you move your pelvis? All right, and that's plenty. And lie on your back, please. That's plenty for now. Lie on your back, please. Okay, so here's the last time to do the scanning. And so we are pretty much done with the lesson, but then we are going to do the scanning once again before I'm going to ask you to stand up. So take just a quick moment to sense your contact, if you recall, and how you felt your contact and how your body touched the ground. Okay, remember the quality of the contact and the touch. How much of the spine touch the ground and touch the floor, and how much space behind your low back, the shape of your spine, and the contact of your pelvis, and the contact of the head, and so forth. Okay? And now, how is it now? And how is it different? I bet there's some difference. And where do you notice the difference? Is there more space behind your back, or there's less space behind your back? Is there more contact of the spine with the ground now than it was before? Now, how is it different? And can you sense the connection between the head and your spine, and between the head, spine, and your pelvis? Now, as you're lying down, you don't really have to do any movements, but as you're lying down, okay? And if you to move your pelvis, okay? Move your pelvis and turn in the pelvis one way or the other way. And can you just imagine, and can you just visualize the connection of the pelvis, connection between the pelvis, spine, and your head. So you can move the head from the pelvis, or you can move the pelvis from the neck, from the head. Just imagine that. Okay. And slowly stand up, please. Slowly, slowly. Come up, come up, come up. Take your time, okay? You don't have to jump up right away. Been lying down, doing the slow movements, and not a lot of fast, big movements. So you might, it might take a little time to get adjusted in standing. So if you feel dizzy, you stand up and take a little time. Make sure that you feel the support. Not feeling dizzy, lightheaded, anything like that. Just let your body weight and sink into the floor. And as you're standing there, please, and notice your contact with your feet, and notice the support that you feel from the ground. Okay. And when you're standing, and can you just remember that connection? If you felt the connection between the head and the pelvis. And can you move your pelvis in a way? And can you move your pelvis to move your head? So if you're going to turn your head to the right, and can you move your head from the pelvis? How do you move your head from the pelvis? Okay. Then you go to the other side. And so really just visualize that connection with the pelvis and connect it to the head. And you turn your pelvis to the left side and to move your head to the left. And what's the connection? And you can do a little circle, move the pelvis in a circle. And can you allow the head to kind of move in a circle a little bit? So it's really, the head is really not independent of the rest of the body. There is all connection, the head, neck, rest of the spine to the pelvis, right? And now, shift your attention to your head. And can you move your head in a way that moves the pelvis? Which is a little harder to do, but just think. Moving the head in a way that actually connects to the spine and to the pelvis. And it's a slight invitation of the movement of the pelvis as you begin to move your head, turning the head one way or the other way, looking up, looking down. There's that connection. The connection is there, whether you know it or not. There's connection is always there. Okay? And take a little walk around your room. And as you're walking, I'd like you to pay attention. When you walk, does the head walk your spine or the pelvis, or does that pelvis walk your head? It's an interesting question. Okay, so think about that. Okay? Do you lead with your head when you walk? Does the head walk your pelvis? But does your pelvis walk your head? So think and shift your attention in that way. And think about, if you're leading with your head, if you're walking, your head is walking your pelvis, and can you switch it so your pelvis walks your head? You probably never thought about that. An interesting question. But the question shifts your attention, and we shift your movements. So how do you sense, how does it change your experience of the walking when you think about walking, the pelvis walking your head, or the head walking your pelvis? It's a very different, I think. So that's it, and we are done. I'm just gonna unmute once again, everybody. And you don't really have to tell anything, but might as well just ask a couple people if there's anything you want to share. Feel free and to share. Let me see. Oops. Hey. Is everybody here? Okay. All right.
Me?
Yay. Anybody fall asleep? I didn't see anybody falling asleep. That's all right. Okay, Mr. Hill. Hill, how was it?
I did fall asleep for a moment.
Oh, you did? Oh, maybe that's why I called you.
Yeah. Oh, right. You called me out. But then I got caught up. Yeah, I'm definitely in my normal life. I'm a head walks the body kind of guy. So this will probably I look forward to the next week ahead, seeing where I can be aware of trying to do it in a different way.
Yeah, but is that interesting though? I mean, asking that question, that changes, like, oh, never thought about that when you think about that. And then, wow, that really changes the experience of walking.
So Taro, this is Kay. Which way is the right way? Is there no right way? Is the head supposed to walk the pelvis, or is pelvis supposed to walk the head?
Yeah, there are no right ways, right? Yeah, there are different ways, right? Yeah, and but the question is, which way do you do, right? And so the only way that is in the Feldenkrais, from a Feldenkrais perspective, the only way that is not right is that you are stuck with only one way of doing that, right? And that's called the habitual patterns. If you're only stuck with the habitual patterns, then there are no other ways to do that. Then, well, that makes it wrong, I guess, in the Feldenkrais term, yeah. But otherwise, as long as there are different ways that you can use, then yeah, it's sometimes maybe there's a times that one way maybe is more preferable than the other ways. As long as you know that, but you don't know, then it doesn't make a difference, right? Because you're stuck with that same way, yeah, over and over.
To me, it feels like when I concentrate, when I feel like I'm concentrating my core, I feel like my pelvis is walking me.
Yeah, yeah.
But if I don't, and I feel like my head is walking my pelvis.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very different walking. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. And Spy, if you mind sharing anything, if there's anything.
I feel like when I lay on the floor, my shoulders never like touch the floor. Like this part, it's always coming up. And when I was trying the exercise with the extended arm going up and down, one way was much harder than the other. And I think I'm like kind of doing this in my everyday life. I'm not, you know, it's not extreme, but I think I don't know, is that most people, do their shoulders like touch the floor?
Well, I wouldn't say most people, but it's pretty common that, right, because of, you think about all the activities that we do, right, and that takes place in front of us, right, and that puts us, I mean, it's a lot of bias towards this movement and this posture, right, and of course, yeah, we are constantly more often using these muscles than the muscles in the opposite side for most people. And so I can't generalize that it's true for everybody, but in general, that tends to be the case from what I can see. Yeah.
I found this very helpful.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I've been spending today probably 4 or 5 hours in front of the computer doing work, really intense work, and you know, just forgetting all that fluidity down the back where the shoulder, the scapula can move. And I like the way that you, I like the way that lesson reminded me of that. The feet of my scapula was very nice. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's a nice feedback. And Dom, anything, if you have anything?
Well, I enjoyed the movements, the different positions, and then moving the shoulder blades independently. Again, it just